I'm gonna get the screen loaded here. And while that's popping up on your screen, let me know in the chat box how many national parks you think Utah has. So get your answers in the next couple of seconds. And as we see here, we have the great state of Utah. It is huge. It's just under 85,000 square miles and is home to 3.2 million residents currently, and is home to several tribes, including the Gashute, Ute, and Paiute, Shoshone, and Navajo tribes. And Utah became a state back in 1895, I want to say. Let me check my math. 1894, off by a year. But they have tons of things to do, a lot of recreational opportunities. And if you guessed right, they have 5 national parks. And those parks are all within about 450 miles of another. So technically, in a day, you could hit all 5 parks in 6 to 8 hours, which is insane. And if you didn't think that was enough, they have 43 state parks, 6 national forests, 7 national monuments, and tons of BLM land, making it a hotspot for tourists from all over the world. And today, how this is going to look is we are going to start off in Zion National Park and then make our way through the different parks and finally end up in Arches. So let's go ahead and get started. And as you can see here, I tried to replicate that Google Maps drive through the red lines just to help you out. All right, so our first national park is Zion. Zion has a ton to offer and is one of Utah's first national parks, being established back in 1919. It's approximately 229 square miles and has so much to offer, with a lot of hikes being accessible through the shuttle system they have there. It's really convenient, and you really can't go past a certain point to get to most of the trailheads. So you want to make sure you plan accordingly and make your parking plans ahead of time. And one of the hikes that I would highly recommend you check out if you're not scared of heights is Angel's Landing. So Angel's Landing is where we are at now. It's the end point. You definitely work for this view. It is a stunning look at the canyon itself and is also considered to be one of the country's most dangerous hikes. That is because if you look at this picture I have here on the corner, once you get to a certain point of the trail where you think it's the top, it's really not. It's a halfway point, and the rest of it, you're using a chain and kind of scrambling to get to this point that you see all these people sitting at. And it can be a bit perilous. Yes, as someone mentioned, someone had fallen from the trail. So it can be a little perilous. You want to make sure you're prepared, not only for the right weather conditions, as you can go on this trail almost any time of the year, but also making sure you prepare yourself with a lot of patience, because this trail is so popular. And if you're going at peak times, it can take a while to get to the top. And if you don't have the right amount of patience, sometimes people try to make their way around people not holding onto the chain, and that impatience can sometimes be deadly. As you can see, very little room for error here when you're trying to make those quick moves around folks. So just making sure you're cautious, patient, and having a great time while you're there. If heights aren't exactly your thing, we have a fantastic alternative with the Narrows. So the Narrows is an awesome hike through the Virgin River. You're going upstream and you're right in between these really beautiful different shades of canyon walls. You have oranges, browns, and then you have the really green foliage kind of popping out with these really cool bursts of color. And if I click through here, you can see the different photos. If you're doing the typical hike where people don't get permits, it's about 2.5 miles there and out. If you're doing the whole thing, you do need a permit, and it ends up being just over 16 miles to complete. And another thing to note, if you see these rocks at the bottom here, this is basically what you're hiking on in the water as well. So you want to make sure that you have some sturdy shoes to get through the hike. In addition to sturdy shoes, you definitely want to bring a wag bag. As you can see, there's no real good spot to go to the restroom here. So a wag bag kind of allows you to do that, and you want to make sure you pack in, pack out, and dispose properly. After we're done checking out the Narrows, we're going to head on over to Bryce Canyon. This drive ends up being about just under 2 hours, and you end up at this really phenomenal place with spectacular views. It is most popular for these hoodoos. If we zoom in, not that close. If we zoom in here, you can see them. They were formed by erosion over the course of millions and millions of years, each time taking away a bit of the sandstone and creating these really intricate rock formations. And the park itself was created in 1928 and is approximately 55 square miles. And if you want to get a nice scenic view, you can take the sunrise to sunset hike, which is the point that we are at right now. And if you've done the rim trail in Grand Canyon, you just kind of walk on the flat pavement and get a nice 180 view. If you're looking for something that's a little more in depth, so you could see the hoodoos up close, then you could do the Peekaboo Loop Trail, which we will hop on over to right now. It's about 5.2 miles to complete. It's recommended that you do the loop trail clockwise and just making sure that you're going at the appropriate times of day, as it can get pretty hot during the summer. So just taking the right amount of water to make sure your hike is a good one. And if we zoom in, you can kind of see the trail weaving in and out of the trees and the hoodoos below. They provide some really cool shots of these rock formations, some window views, some natural arches, this really cool shot of just the different topography and the trees all kind of bursting out of the cracks and crevices. So it's a really neat hike. If you are a hiker or a photographer, you would not have a bad moment hiking through here. Next, we're going to head up to Capitol Reef. So Capitol Reef is probably not the #1 national park destination that people have. I would say that it is Zion or Arches. So it's not maybe as crowded on the weekends, but still incredibly popular and provides you an opportunity. If you didn't get a chance to do the Narrows hike, you could do something similar here at Sulphur Creek. So if we look down here, keep zooming in way too close. But here we have Sulphur Creek. It's very similar to the Narrows, where you're hiking through the water. You can hike up to a waterfall, which is pretty neat. And again, hiking through some slender, narrow caves with really pretty hues of oranges and browns. And the park itself was established in 1971 and is pretty big at 378 square miles. And if you're looking for a hike that doesn't involve too much water, then I would recommend the Hickman Bridge Trail. It's really close to the parking lot, about less than a mile in, less than a mile out. So you're looking at less than 2 miles round trip to this beautiful natural sandstone arch called the Hickman Bridge. And if you go during the right time of year, you can see some really pretty wildflowers blooming and, of course, really cool rock formations. You want to make sure that you have the appropriate shoes as well, because it can get pretty rocky and they have a lot of loose rock. So you want to avoid rolling your ankles through here. From the Hickman Bridge Trail, we're going to head up to Canyonlands. Canyonlands is Utah's largest park and is appropriately named because, as you can see here, it is just this vast expanse of rocky wilderness, layers upon layers of sandstone and really beautiful buttes popping out. It is gorgeous, breathtaking. You could spend hours just looking out into this rocky void almost. One of the most popular destinations in Canyonlands would be Mesa Arch. It's about a 2-mile and some change hike in. And if you think you're going to get this isolated photo, then it's probably because you went on a weekday where a lot of people weren't making their way to this, because it is incredibly popular. I have left at 3 in the morning to get here, and there were people already waiting. And if you're wondering why it's so popular or why there's so many cameras set up, it's because everyone is trying to get this perfect shot. Right when the sun comes up, it hits this arch just right, creating the perfect photo with the canyon, a little panoramic view of it at the bottom, and then just really shining on the underside of the arch. So a really stunning photo that everyone wants, and you can't blame them. It's gorgeous. So again, you just want to make sure you get there at the right time. Another hike, if you're looking for a pretty strenuous, moderate-ish hike, that really takes you into the heart of Canyonlands. I would recommend going to the Druid Arch Trail. It has some really stunning rock formations, some that look like elephants, some that look like people just standing up. It's really neat. And I have not been, but the reviews that I've read have said that the scenery tends to change what feels like almost every 100 feet. So you're never really bored with the scenery, and there's a lot to do. And if I click through these pictures, you can kind of see how it changes from a really wide trail to a very narrow one, and just is a stunning landscape to kind of hike through. So from Canyonlands, Arches is just about an hour and a half away. It's pretty close. And in between, they have the Dead Horse State Park. Just a little shout out there. Again, lots of recreational opportunities. Arches is probably my favorite national park layout. It is so easy to get through and see things, very accessible. And if you can see in this map, it has one main road that starts at the very beginning from the visitor center and goes almost all the way to the very end of the park boundaries. And there's a ton to see. If you didn't want to get out of your car, you can see the parking lot right here. And if we zoom just to the side, we have the courthouse towers. So again, really accessible and easy park to visit and see, and really cool buttes and monoliths to look at. So here we have the three gossips. And over here is probably my favorite rock in the park, is called Sheep Rock. And that name is so spot on. It looks exactly like a sheep. And fun fact, it used to be a massive arch. However, over the course of time has withered away and is now left looking like a sheep. And if I just pass over to the side here, we have the Tower of Babel. Let me zoom out. Well, I will try again later. So we also have other rock formations like the Balanced Rock, who did have another sibling here that looked similar. However, it toppled back a few decades ago. We also have the Petrified Sand Dunes, and those are really phenomenal places to hike upon as well. And if one arch wasn't good enough, you could head on over to Double Arch or Double O Arch for a really cool photography experience. And I would be remiss to not mention the one hike that you should absolutely do if you get a chance to visit here is the Delicate Arch. The trail itself starts out at the Wolf Ranch here, which was built in the 1800s. So you get to pass that. It's like one of the first things you walk past. And then, of course, you get to see some of these rock wall art that is believed to have been left or etched into the rock about the 1600s. And they know this because if we look closely, you can see a rock in the top left-hand, or you can see a horse in the rock at the left-hand corner. And horses weren't native to the Americas until the Spaniards brought them over back when they came in the 1500s. So that's how they estimated that time frame. And as we continue on to the Delicate Arch, we have some really cool scenic views until we finally arrive here at our main destination. Again, very popular hike. It's, I would say, synonymous with Utah, or what people think of Utah. It's just this amazing natural sandstone arch. And so it's pretty crowded. So you want to make sure you're going early in the morning, or just have some snacks and ready to be patient and wait for your chance to get the picture you want with the arch. So that all being said, I'm going to hand it on over to Jody and Haley to give us some more insight into Utah. And we're going to go ahead and click through some photos as well. So if Jody and Haley want to come on and introduce yourselves, and then I will ask you the first question we have.
Okay, I'll start. I am Jody Blaney. I'm with the Utah Office of Tourism. I am a global market specialist, and so I work with really specific markets like China and emerging markets. So yeah, I'll be happy to answer your questions as we go along.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm happy to be here as well. I am the fam tour specialist and also work on building our content like itineraries and such. So I am very well versed in traveling through Utah, hosting people through Utah, answering questions. So happy to be here today to do just that.
Our first question for you both is telling us a little bit more about the organization you work for.
We both work for the Utah Office of Tourism, which promotes tourism into the state through advertising and media contacts. We are an office within the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and our mission is to elevate life in Utah through responsible tourism and stewardship. We operate several programs to assist Utah tourism industry, including marketing, advertising, research, publications, information services, media relations, destination development, travel trade, scenic byways, and cooperative marketing programs.
Awesome. And what are your favorite outdoor places in Utah?
Well, for me, some of the places that I like to visit are Sundance Mountain Resort. It is a beautiful place to go. It was owned by Robert Redford up until just a few months ago. And if you know anything about Robert Redford, um, he's a real outdoorsman, and he has really preserved that area. In fact, there's a restaurant there called the Tree Room. He didn't want the tree to be cut down, so he built the restaurant around the tree. So you go in and eat in the restaurant. There's a tree growing right up the middle of it. And I love Bear Lake. That is a really fun place to go. The water is really cold, but it is really clear, and it's just an amazing place to go. And they grow really good raspberries up there. So you can go spend the day at the lake and then go get a raspberry shake. And then, of course, I love to go to Park City and experience it in the summer and the winter. There's so much to do. And St. George, Utah, down in southern Utah.
Very cool.
Haley?
Yeah, I live just outside of Salt Lake, so I really often love to go to events and downtown dining, things like that in Salt Lake. But I also love to get away just up the canyon in Park City. We also have a really close to the urban spaces park called Antelope Island, which is like an inland sea going to the Great Salt Lake. Really, really cool. And then, of course, all of these Red Rock, beautiful Southern Utah destinations. I've got to get out multiple times a year because they're stunning.
That's awesome. Yeah, y'all have so much to do. What would you say is your favorite place that most folks don't know about?
Well, for me, I live in Utah County in a little town that's halfway between Salt Lake and Provo. And we have a beautiful canyon here called American Fork Canyon. So I can just, take a ride up there after work. It's only about 20 minutes away. And up that canyon, there is Timpanogos National Monument, which has just recently been designated a an urban dark sky place. We have Tipple Fork, which is just a beautiful little reservoir that you can go fishing and boating or just wading in the water. And then you can take a ride up over the mountain, which takes you from American Fork Canyon into Provo Canyon. And that is called the Alpine Loop, which is a beautiful drive, especially in the fall. And then when you get up to the top of the mountain, before you drop down into Provo Canyon, there is a place called Cascade Springs, and they are natural springs. They've built a nice little park around it. You can go hike around all of the different natural springs. So those are kind of my hidden gems in my area.
That's awesome.
Haley?
Yeah, I would say this past summer I visited inside of Escalante or Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. It's basically between Zion or around Zion and Bryce, and it's huge, expansive. You can kind of get lost because it's a little bit more remote than your national parks. But there are some gems. There is definitely solitude to be found. And I just thought the views were super incredible on Bird Trail Road and Long Canyon Road. I feel like that could be a national park on its own. So.
Oh, neat. Yeah, I'm writing those down for my next trip. Besides outdoor spaces, what are your favorite things about the state itself?
Well, Utah has a lot of great outdoor concert venues. I like to mention that first because we have an amphitheater at our Red Butte Gardens, which is beautiful to go up in the mountains and see an outdoor concert. And we have Tuacahn, which is down in southern Utah, which I know that Colorado's Red Rocks gets a lot of press, but I think our Tuacahn is pretty good too. Besides that, we have a a great art community. We have lots of performing arts. We have the Eccles Theater, we have a symphony, we have the Utah Symphony Opera Festival, which takes place in Logan every year. So I really like the performing arts. And Haley, I think I know what she's going to say, but we'll turn it over to Haley.
Oh. I love the food scene. I don't know if that's what she was going to say. I'm a foodie, but I also am a snowboarder, and so I love the Utah snow here. So both of those are kind of my fun activities, hobbies.
Okay, so for food, what food does Utah do better than any other state?
Well, they've actually been named the Craft Chocolate Capital of America, which might surprise you. We love sugar in Utah, so there is a theme of a lot of sugar type companies, but chocolate, they're crafting it from bean to bar, they call it, and they have so many confectionaries, that's really definitely a craft industry. And I'll let Jody go over a couple of the other ones.
Okay. I don't know how many of you have heard of funeral potatoes, but that is definitely a Utah tradition. And they're called funeral potatoes because, in Utah, after you have the funeral, you generally go over to somebody's house or even to the church and have a meal. And one of the things that's generally served at all these is funeral potatoes. So they are really yummy. It's like a casserole. They've got potatoes and cheese and sour cream, and they're topped with cornflakes that have been mixed with butter. It is really, really good. They are not good for you at all, but they are delicious. And then we have something here called fry sauce that was actually invented by a local restaurant called Arctic Circle. And there are lots of different recipes for it, but the most basic recipe is just mayonnaise and ketchup. And we love to dip our fries and tater tots and onion rings in it. And we go to other states and we order fry sauce and they look at us like we're crazy, but it's just a staple around here. You can order it at any restaurant. And then green Jello, we're kind of famous for our green Jello. That's another thing that people like to bring to, family get-togethers and funerals. We're really into Jello around here. And then we have Navajo tacos. I don't think that they are a traditional Navajo dish, but that's what we call them. We call them scones here, but it's more of a fry bread. And then you put, chili and cheese and tomatoes and sour cream and everything on it. We call that a Navajo taco, and you can get those several places here in Utah.
Okay, awesome.
I'll send you a recipe for the funeral potatoes. They're really good.
Please do. Yeah, I'm curious. What would you recommend or how many days do you recommend for a first timer coming to the state?
I'm going to let Haley take this one because she plans all of our itineraries.
As a first timer in the state?
Yeah.
Well, I would try to go off the beaten path. Maybe if you are most interested in one national park, I definitely suggest instead of trying to hit them all in one trip, choose like the one that calls to you the most. And then if you look on a map and you literally just search like state parks near that national park, you could find probably 5 within an hour's drive. So you could go to that national park, then visit state parks all around it and make it more of a hyper local trip. That for one really helps with the visitation that we have throughout the state so that there's not as much traffic going to all one place. And it also just helps you get a better sense of how diverse the state is. For example, you can be in downtown Salt Lake and then you drive an hour and all of a sudden you feel like you're at the ocean at the Great Salt Lake. So there's all kinds of great diversity in really small, compact areas. And so you can come back multiple times for all those parks.
Perfect. And what would you say is the best travel sport for the winter season and then the best travel sport for summer season?
Travel sport? Is that what you said?
Sorry,
the
travel
best things
spots.
to do in winter. The best thing to do in the winter and the summer.
Okay.
Well, for the winter, and you kind of had some pictures of this here, the national parks are really popular in the summertime, which is great, but they are still there in the wintertime, and you can go, they're less crowded. The views are beautiful. I think especially at Bryce, to see the snow on the hoodoos at Bryce. Um, and then let's see, what else did I put down here? We have, our ski resorts. We have the greatest snow on earth. Our snow is different than any other place on the planet because of the Great Salt Lake and the way that affects the weather here. So we have several ski resorts in the Salt Lake City, Park City area, but we also have ski resorts in southern Utah and northern Utah. So if you want to be, you know, in a little less crowded area, we have Bryan Head in southern Utah and Powder Mountain in northern Utah. And then let's see, the dark skies designated places and communities, I've just been told by Haley today, are best to visit in the wintertime. And Utah has more than any other state. We have 19 certified dark sky places and communities.
Oh, wow.
So if you're interested in stargazing, we have those all throughout the state, and that's a great wintertime activity. Haley, do you have anything to add for winter spots?
Those are both great. Yeah.
Okay.
I know Utah boasts a ton of outdoor activities. And so besides like hiking and camping and backpacking, what are some other big ticket items that y'all offer?
There's a lot to cover.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot.
I think that some really like top activities that people come here for, rock climbing and bouldering is definitely one. We've got, I don't know, throw it to you, Jody. I know you made a huge list. I don't think
I made a list. One thing that I like to talk about is dog sledding, because I think that would be, a once in a lifetime thing to do. And there is they're called the Arctic Dog Rescue. And so all of the dogs that they have, they're Alaskan Huskies and Siberian Huskies, they're all rescue dogs. And they love pulling the sleds. And you can go, it's up in the Park City area. You can go on these hour-long dog sled rides, and you can get to areas that you wouldn't get to any other way. And the dogs love it, and the people love it. And so dog sledding is a fun thing to do. We also have our Olympic Park in Park City, because we were hosts of the 2002 Winter Olympics, and a lot of the venues are still there. So you can go take a bobsled ride, which I have done. It's super fast. It's over and done within a minute, but then you can say you've taken a bobsled ride, and there's lots of other things to do at the Olympic Park. The America West Heritage Center in Logan is really cool. You can take a flatbed truck out into the middle of this field where there are bison, and you can feed the bison and get really close up with them. And then, as Haley mentioned, Antelope Island State Park also has really good wildlife viewing.
Perfect. And for our last question, what are some good online resources for travel or tourism tips in Utah?
I think that the best resource is our visitutah.com website. It is really extensive and updated, and we're adding new things all the time. So visitutah.com is a great place to go for everything. There it is. And Haley contributes to this, and it really is a great website.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being here and sharing with us some really awesome insight about the state. We do have the link in the chat box for y'all to visit. And next week, I believe we have our Star Wars tour. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I'm pretty sure that's the one that's up.
100%. Galaxy far, far away.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you both so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone who joined us today to see the beautiful things that Utah has to offer. And hopefully we can all go visit you soon.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.